Want to first thank you guys for taking the time out of the evening to attend this webinar about the 403B program in the school district. I'm going to bring the camera on. My name is Jonathan Wicker. On this call, I also have my partner, Kaylee Price. We're going to be going through the presentation this evening. If at any time you have any questions or thoughts on this presentation, feel free to put a question into the question box, and we will stop and go through those questions throughout this presentation and answer any questions that you guys might have. This will be our last presentation for this school year. Kaylee and I have already started working on presentations for the fall, where we're looking to do Social Security, estate planning, have an economist come on, talk a little bit about how the market works and all that cool stuff. So figured we'd give you guys the summer off and enjoy yourselves. It's been a heck of a year. But without further ado, I'm going to start with the 403B. So a little bit of a understanding, a little summary of some of the different things that we are working on. I know Kaylee and I have already done the student loan forgiveness, the college funding strategies. We've had a couple of these already that we've already done. So some of these that are on this list, we're going to probably look to do in the fall also. But these are some of the different webinars that we also have to be able to roll out to you guys. About Lincoln, so both Kaylee and I work for Lincoln Investment. We've been around since 1968, started in the Philadelphia School District. Primarily do a lot of the 403B business, a little bit of a different from the insurance companies that are there. We're more of an independent broker dealer, which gives us a lot more flexibility. And I'll kind of dig into that a little bit more throughout this presentation. Here at Lincoln, as I mentioned, not just the 403Bs, we do estate planning, insurance, college, you name it, anything financial. We both can work with you guys on any questions that you might have throughout your life. Here's my lawyer piece. Basically, this is saying the past performance is not indicative of future results. Get in touch with a financial advisor. Make sure that the investments that you're doing make sense for your personal risk tolerance. And always know what you're doing before you sign any paperwork. All right, so let's talk about the 403B in the school district. So what is a 403B? I get this question a lot. A 403B is nothing more than a 401k, but for school employees. Working in a school district, you are considered a nonprofit employee. And the section in the IRS tax code that pertains to retirement accounts for nonprofit employees is section 403B. If you worked for McDonald's or Walmart or Apple, you'd have a 401k. But because, again, you guys work in public schools, nonprofits, that's why you have the 403B plan. So today, we're going to talk about why do you invest, the features of the 403B, how do you get started, how much can you put in, questions on how do you get access to the money, whether a loan, hardships, and then I've got a spin at the end where we're going to talk a little bit about important questions to ask any financial advisor regarding opening up an account, if it's with Lincoln or one of the different companies that are offered in the school district. So the beautiful thing for you guys when you retire is that you have a very nice pension. Most of the employees that work in a school district have a pension that will primarily cover the majority of their expenses when they retire. What the 403B does is allows you guys to have that flexibility in retirement to pay for a wedding, go on vacation, maybe look at a second house, enjoy your retirement. The pension's going to cover the bills, the 403B, IRAs, or other investments. That's really going to be what's going to allow you guys to kind of enjoy that retirement years and enjoy yourself and not have to worry about your finances. Pension's going to cover everything else, which is always nice. What is one of the biggest features for the 403B is that we work with a lot of the employees is helping you guys reduce your income taxes. The traditional 403B that's offered in the school district allows you to put money into a retirement account before taxes are paid on that account. And how does that impact your take-home pay? Here's an example of somebody who's making $40,000 a year. You can see if they put $3,000 a paycheck in, they report to the IRS $37,000, which is almost a $660 tax savings in that year. So most people who start putting money into the 403B, if they are getting a refund, they tend to get a little bit more of a refund. If they're not getting a refund, this kind of can help them bridge that gap to be able to maybe get to that point where you're not owing when you do your taxes at the end of the year. It also allows the money to grow tax deferred. What does that mean? So if you put $100 in before taxes, that $100 is going to grow compared to if you did it after tax, like a Roth, where only $65 of that money grows for you on each contribution. So it kind of gives you a little bit more bang for your buck. It allows you to put a little bit more money into the retirement account where you don't feel it as much because it's money that went in before the taxes have been paid on it. In terms of kind of some numbers, most teachers are either in a 22 or 24, or employees of schools are in a 22 to 24% tax bracket. So if you're doing, say, $200 a paycheck, this almost over 20 years, this can equate to either $10,000, $11,000 in tax savings that you didn't end up paying to the IRS while you were working. So definitely adds and gives you some tax advantage savings on the 403B. How do you get started? So Kaylee and I usually talk to a lot of our people who are starting new with us, and one of the things I always tell them is, I don't care what you guys start with. I've had people start with as little as $10 a paycheck. I've had people start with as much as $500 a paycheck. It really all depends on your comfort level and your finances and what you're able to do. I'm a firm believer of start small, get the account open, just break that barrier of filling out the paperwork, getting it started, and then from there, then you can start to, over time, increase, but a little bit more maybe every year. You know, I've got some clients that are doing $25 every year. They just put a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more into their account. So after a few years, they are, you know, maybe putting in $400, $300, $200, whatever. It makes it a little bit easier. Most of the school districts are all set up through a TPA. Some of the big ones out there are the Omni Group. Or TSA Consulting Group, but you know that is usually all done through payroll. And we can also, if you are starting a 403B, we help you with that process to get your payroll to let them know that you would like to start. This is the other one I love. I don't have enough money to invest. It's true. Sometimes there are people that we talk to that, you know, with their bills and their life and everything, that they might not have that money. That's generally why, you know, we'll have somebody start with $25 a paycheck or something like that, where it's $16 out of your take-home pay. They call it the latte factor, where, you know, maybe once a week you don't buy a cup of coffee, and you know that's the money saved for you to be able to put money into your retirement account. So it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be a very small, easy number to start with, and then, you know, as I said, go from there. The limits, have to update this. So the limits for 2021 are the same as last year, 2022. So if you are under the age of 50, you can do 19,500 or 100% of your paycheck. So if you only get 10 grand, you can put 100% of your paycheck in. If you're making more than $19,500, you can put only up to the 19,500 for each calendar year, not school year. If you are over the age of 50, you have the extra luxury of being older, and the IRS allows you to put in an additional $6,500. So for those employees that are over 50 years old, you can put in $26,000. There is a special catch-up. Doesn't really work much anymore, but you have to be in a school district for more than 15 years and have averaged less than $5,000 in those 15 years or more of contributions. Because the limits are so high now, you know, not many people really apply for that. It's only meant for people who've worked in a school district for years and years, never put money away ever, and on the back end of their career wanted to put some additional. It's an extra $3,000 for 5 years that you can put in. So I've got a couple slides out of this whole thing that I absolutely love. This is one of them. This is my girl, Susan. Susan started out 25 years old, starting putting $100 a paycheck away. At 40, for whatever reason, she tapped out, said, I'm not putting any more money in. So for 15 years, she put in $18,000. Stopped contributing at 40, let the money grow until 65. Sam was doing some fun things in his 20s and decided I don't need to do this. And he decided at 35 to start contributing. But from 35 to 65, so for 30 years, he contributed double the amount of Susan. But because Susan started 10 years earlier, she allowed that money to grow and compound on the account for a longer period of time, which, as you can see, at 65 for both of them, Susan ended up having almost $24,000 more than Sam. So this gets back to that point that I made earlier where start as soon as possible. Put something in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just put something in. And even if you stop it at some point in your career, it's going to continue to grow and build for you. Here's that piece again that the latte factor that they were calling it. But depending on the taxes and where you are, these numbers are a little bit different, but $25 a paycheck in this before taxes is about $19.50 out of your take-home pay. If you live in an area that has more taxes, then it's actually even less. But $100 is about $78. I sometimes say $75, but it doesn't hurt as bad. And you can see somebody who did $100 a paycheck, $100 a paycheck over 40 years, it's almost a third of $1 million, $332,000. It's a lot of money for a small amount to be paid into the account over time. I'm going to stop here. Kaylee, do we have any questions at this point, or hopefully everything's making sense?
I'm not seeing any questions. If you do have some, we do have the question box, so just type them in there and I'll be keeping an eye out.
Cool. All right. How do we touch this money? Show me my money. While you are working, there are two different ways to touch the 403B. One is a loan. The IRS allows you to borrow from your own personal 403B account. One of the things I will tell you in this section is every 403B provider, whether it's Lincoln or one of the other companies in the district, all have slightly different variations, slightly different rules to their loan provisions. I know for Lincoln, I think right now our rate is 5.25%, and that is all credited back into your account, and we do not keep your interest. You pay back the interest. We also allow 30-year loans on if you're buying a primary residence. I know from previous employment with other companies that are also in the 403B space, some of them only go out 20 years. And I know some of them are 6% interest compared to our 5.25. So you want to do your homework. You want to make sure that if you are taking a loan, make sure you're using a plan and a company that's actually benefiting you and not keeping any of your interest or charging you more than they should. Withdrawals, anybody prior to the age of 50, 59 and a half, you can take it out. Death, disability, separation of service. If you are retired and you are at the age of 55, you can take this money out without any penalties. So that is that separation of service clause. Kind of works on that, but there's a separate piece in here that we don't have. 55, retired and collecting your pension and no longer working, you can access your 403Bs without any 10% penalties. Hardship withdrawals, knock on wood, hopefully nobody on this call ever has to deal with this. You're allowed to take out all of your contributions that you put into the account, not any of the earnings. One of the biggest factors for me was during Superstorm Sandy back in 2012, living on Long Island. I had a lot of people take out for hardships because they were losing their job, they were about to lose their house, they couldn't make payments. There was a lot of stuff going on. But basically, it's death, disability. You're about to be evicted from your house. You can't pay medical bills, can't pay tuition bills, bad stuff. Again, talk to your advisor, go through your options of whether a loan or hardship or whatever might be the best option, and then go from there. Rules pretty much the same. If you do a hardship, as I said before, you're only allowed to put in the contributions. That is an older rule where the contributions, I believe, have to stop for 6 months. I think they did change that, so I'll have to double check that to make sure that that's updated. And that's a new rule as of 2009, so not new anymore, but you have to show proof. In the old days, you could do a hardship and never prove it, which was always sketchy. But now, if you can't pay your medical bills or you can't pay tuition bills, they need to show a letter that shows that you are behind on your payments, and you're only allowed to take out the money to cover those bills, not anything extra. For the loans, to get back to that, you're allowed 50% of the account balance up to $50,000. So if you have 100 grand in there, you can take 50. If you got $150,000 in your balance in your 403b, you can only take 50 grand. And if you got 60 grand in your account, you can only take 30. 50% of the account balance up to $50,000. So, and as I said, make sure if you are taking a loan that you are following up with all of your vendors that you might work with to see what their plans allow and if there's any differences. Currently, right now, as I said before, if you are 55 and retired, you can take your money out. Otherwise, 59 and a half, you can take the money out without any penalties. This is one of those questions that I get. Once I've retired, what do I do? You don't have to do anything. If you don't need the money, you can let the money continue to sit in the account and grow for you and take advantage of the market and the growth. At age 72, the IRS comes knocking and says, you've had this money long enough, give us a piece. And they take a small percentage every year based on your life expectancy. And every year you have to take out a little bit more out of your retirement account as a percentage and spend it on whatever you want, but the IRS wants the tax money. So at 72, you have to start taking money out of your 403b. How do we build the investments? Haley and I are, as I said, independent advisors. So we work directly with the mutual fund companies, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, American Funds, Fidelity, you name it. I think we've got 90 or 80 mutual fund families, over 3,000 funds to pick from. So that's our job, to know the investments and to know which funds are best for you, and then explain to you why we're picking the funds, where we're putting the money, and why we think that's in your best interest. There are also insurance companies that work in the school districts. They don't have as many investment options. It's usually a limited menu of about 80 or so funds. They tend to sometimes have guaranteed fixed options. I know a lot of the companies used to have 3-4% guarantees, but with interest rates being the way they are, a lot of them have dropped their guaranteed interest rates down to 1%. So it's kind of like a bank. You're not going to get too much growth on those accounts. So again, if you're looking and you work with one of the insurance companies, dig into the fine print, make sure you know what you have, and see if you have that flexibility to invest in different funds and different investments that you want to. The pyramid, investment pyramid. If you're in your 20s, 30s, you tend to be in the purple and the orange. You want to be in more growth-oriented funds. You want to have potential higher returns on your accounts. As you guys get into your late 40s, 50s, and then 60s, Kaylee and I start talking with you guys a lot more, start reviewing the accounts a lot more. We start rebalancing the money that you have out of the purple and out of the green, and out of the purple and out of the orange, and start moving money more into the blue and some money into the green. So that way, if the market does have a pullback like last March, you're not feeling the pain as much. If you're 22 years old, those clients that stuck with us through last March, they made a killing when the market rebounded in April, May, June, July, and throughout the year. Those that were retired, their accounts went down, but only a little bit, and then they bounced back when the market recovered. So you want to make sure that your investments are built in a way where, depending on your risk tolerance, if you're young, take more risk. If you're older, take a little less risk, and try to have that conversation with your advisor in terms of what's the nice blend, what's the nice mix to get to the investment goals that you're looking for. So in summary, why do we contribute to a 403B? Plain and simple. Pension's going to cover the bills. 403B is going to allow you to enjoy retirement. You set it up, it's automatic. It comes out of your paycheck every 2 weeks or, once a month or however the district has you guys set up. The money goes in, it kind of set it and forget it, and it's forced savings for you guys. If you are owing taxes, it is a nice way to help reduce your income tax by lowering your income. The money does grow tax deferred, meaning that you do not pay taxes on the money until you retire. There is also no reduction in any other benefits like Social Security or your teacher's retirement system, the pension. It doesn't reduce or have any impact on any of that stuff. So it's really kind of a win-win where it gives you guys that flexibility to save some money and know that in retirement, you're going to have more than just a pension. You're going to have a pension, you're going to have the 403B, you might have a Roth or a Roth IRA or some investment accounts. And that just gives you guys more options. And more options is never a bad thing. This is the little piece that I built on here, my little pride and joy. Any investment provider that you're going to work with, whether it's Kaylee or myself, or whether it is any of the different companies that are working in the school district besides us, these are minimal questions that you want to ask them. So number one, how much is your minimum contribution? I know some companies have minimum contributions. I think it's crazy, but it is what it is. You want to start with an account, start with what you're comfortable with. If you're working with the insurance companies that are out there, make sure you understand what your fees are. Here at Lincoln, up front, when you meet with us, we always have a conversation of what our expenses are and how we get paid, basically. But on the annuity contracts, a lot of that stuff is built into the contracts and you might not see it. So if you are working with an insurance company, make sure you ask them, what is the M&E, mortality and expense charge? That's the fee that goes to them. What is the mutual fund fees? Each one of the investments that you go into has a fee. Are there any additional fees or surrender charges? And what I mean by that is if you're not happy and you want to take your money and go to a different company for a different option, can you or will they penalize you? A lot of the companies that are in the districts, if you're not happy and you want to move your money out, they've got some sort of deferred sales charge or a penalty or a lock-in, and you can't for 6 years or 10 years or whatever. So you want to make sure you know what you're getting into, and if you're not happy, can you get out without any penalties? What are your investment options? As I mentioned before, we've got over 3,500 funds. I know last year when all craziness happened, I had clients call me and ask me if I had specialized funds in airplanes or in cars or in travel and leisure like hotels and stuff like that. And it was cool because I was able to come back to them and said, yeah, I've got 4 funds that fit that criteria. Let's go over them and maybe pick a fund that you're interested in and let's invest in it. If you have a limited menu of maybe 80 funds, you might not have as much flexibility if you are interested in investing and getting into certain areas. How often do you contact your clients? I know for me, a minimum of twice a year, minimum. My clients that are retired, I tend to call on a quarterly basis. So if you ever opened up a 403B and you've never heard from your advisor since, or it's been quite some time, that's a problem. You want to make sure that, if you're working and you're putting your money into this plan, somebody's talking to you on a regular basis and reviewing the account with you. How do you get paid? So really don't care on this one. I always tell all my clients how we get paid. We work on a fee-based platform, meaning that we charge a fee to manage the account. And if you guys are making money, we make money. If you guys lose money, we lose money. We have a fiduciary requirement to make sure that your account is performing to the best that we can make it for you. Some of the other companies that are in the district are commission-based, meaning that you put your money in, they get paid a commission up front, and once they get paid the commission, they don't have to come back and review the account. They have no responsibility to make sure that the account is performing after they get paid a commission on the contributions. So ask that question. It's a tough question because sometimes you don't feel comfortable, but it's important. The advisor should be able to explain to you how they get paid and what their motivation is to make sure that you do well. What other products and services do you offer? As I mentioned, Kaylee's a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. I've been doing this for 15 years now. We both offer all different services, whether it's estate planning, life insurance, college planning, budget planning. Last year, a ton of my clients I worked with, helping them go through refinancing and lowering their debts, and the mortgage rates being so low, I've worked with a lot of people helping them with that. Debt consolidation, student loan forgiveness, a million different things. If you're working with an advisor and you're not getting any conversation or no services or not even having these conversations, you might want to kind of reevaluate what you're doing. So definitely, ask all these questions. They're solid questions just to ask. I'm going to end on the fee piece. I am psychotic about the fees. I worked with a company prior that had higher fees. I'm not going to say who, but they definitely had higher fees. And when I switched over to Lincoln about 4 years ago, one of the things I liked about here is that we have the access to Vanguard funds and low cost options and able to keep the expense ratios low for you guys, so that way you make more money. So on average, most of my clients are around that 1.4, 1.5, somewhere in there on the fees. But this shows somebody who is paying 0.75% less in fees over 30 years, doing $250 a paycheck, $500 a month. It's almost, or at 6% return, it's almost $50,000 in fees. So as I mentioned before, if your advisor has not had these conversations with you, give us a call. These are all things that can help improve your 403B experience and get you more money and allow you to have more money into retirement. This is just a piece, I'm going to skip over it, but it kind of shows about contributions. If you increase $100 every year, how much more you would have. So if you start off with $200 and every year do $100 more, by the time you retire at 30 years, you'd have $1.2 million compared to $200 if you just kept it at $200 baby steps. It doesn't have to be this big. Start off with $50, next year do 75, next year do 100, and so on and so forth. Before you know it, you're putting in a lot more into the account, and the accounts are growing, and you'll be able to retire with a nice nest egg. Kaylee, how we doing? Any questions?
Didn't get any questions, and I think, I just want to point out a couple really important things that you mentioned, and that's getting started early, even if it's not a ton that you're contributing. That illustration showed how much a little bit at a time early on can build up. And really just don't be scared to make sure you understand what you're investing in and what you're paying. That's your money, that's your retirement, that's your life. Don't be scared to ask those questions Jonathan went over.
We're here. That's our job, to answer those questions. So, give us a call, ask questions away. We love questions. I joke, the more informed my clients are, the less they freak out and call me with crazy questions. It's like a student who actually knows what's going on in class compared to a student who's in class and has no idea what the heck's going on. They're going to ask you a million dumb questions. So, the more you guys know, the better you guys are and the more informed you are. So, I'm going to end on this. On the left is me, on the right is Kaylee. So if you have questions on anything, or if you found this webinar to be insightful and informative, give us a call. If you have a coworker or a colleague that has no clue what the heck they're doing, send them this. This recording is going to be sent out to the school district, so that way they can send out the recording to anybody who didn't watch it. Anybody who was on this call tonight, thank you again for attending. If they were not able to make or to attend tonight, we are automatically sending out a recording of this webinar to you guys, so you will be getting that probably tomorrow. But again, I really thank you guys for taking the, what do we got? 30 minutes to learn a little bit more about the 403B, and hope that it makes a little bit more sense now. And as I said, feel free to give Kaylee or I a call anytime, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you again.